Do you know what it means to have everything and lose it all in one day? I do. I am Job, and this is my story. I was the greatest man among all the people of the East. Living in the land of Uz, I owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, and had many servants. I was also blessed with 7 sons and 3 daughters. I feared God and shunned evil. When my sons would hold feasts in their homes and would invite their sisters to eat and drink with them, I would make arrangements for them to be purified. Early in the morning, I would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking, perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. On a particular day, when my sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, a messenger came to me and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, and the Sabaeans attacked and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, the fire of God fell from the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. As he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, the Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. Yet again, another messenger came and said, your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on them and they are dead, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. I was broken. In disbelief, I tore my robe and shaved my head. I fell to the ground, moaning and in pain, for my greatest fear had come upon me. I took a piece of broken pottery and scraped myself with it as I sat among the ashes. My own wife said to me, are you still maintaining your integrity? She told me to curse God and die. These were the words that my own wife spoke to me. I retorted, you are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble? For in all this, I did not blame God with wrongdoing. I did not sin in what I said. When my friends Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar heard about all my troubles that had come to me, they set out from their homes and met together by agreement to go sympathize with and comfort me. All 3 of them were older than me. When they saw me from a distance, they could hardly recognize me. They began to weep aloud, and they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads. Then they sat on the ground with me for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to me because they saw how great my suffering was. I opened my mouth and cursed the day of my birth. I exclaimed, may the day of my birth perish, and the night that said, a boy is conceived. That day, may it turn to darkness. May God above not care about it. May no light shine on it. I began to question everything. Why is life given to those in misery and life to the bitter of soul, to those who long for death that does not come, who search for it more than for hidden treasure, who are filled with gladness and rejoice when they reach the grave? Why is life given to a man whose way is hidden, whom God has hedged in? My daily food became sighing and groaning like water. What I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me. I had no peace, no quietness. I had no rest but only turmoil. My spirit was broken. My days were cut short. The grave awaited me. The mockers surround me. My eyes must dwell on their hostility. I prayed, give me, O God, the pledge you demand. Who else will put up security for me? My eyes grew dim with grief. My whole frame was but a shadow. My days have passed, I said. My plans were shattered. My 3 friends Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar consoled me. Like all friends, they intended to strengthen me in my suffering. They also gave me their take on the matter. They spoke on why God allows people to suffer. Their belief was that I was suffering because I had done something wrong. As a result, they repeatedly encouraged me to admit my wrong and repent so that God would bless me again. Eliphaz concluded that my pain must be due to some sin that I had enacted and recommended that I seek God's favor. Bildad and Zophar agreed that I must have performed evil to provoke God's justice and argued that I should attempt to manifest more innocent behavior. Bildad supposed that my own children brought their deaths upon themselves. Even worse, Zophar replied, Are all these words to go unanswered? Is this talker to be vindicated? Will your idle talk reduce others to silence? Will no one rebuke you when you mock? You say to God, "My beliefs are flawless, and I am pure in your sight." Oh, how I wish that God would speak, that he would open his lips against you and disclose to you the secrets of wisdom. For true wisdom has two sides. Know this, God has even forgotten some of your sin. Surely he recognizes deceivers, and when he sees evil, does he not take note? Yet if you devote your heart to him and stretch out your hands to him, if you put away the sin that is in your hand and allow no evil to dwell in your tent, then free from guilt you will lift up your face. You will stand firm and without fear. You will surely forget your trouble, recalling it only as waters gone by. They assumed that my troubles were the sure sign of God's judgment, but I feared God and shunned evil. At a point, I grew weary of them. I told them, "Doubtless you are the only people who matter, and wisdom will die with you. But I have a mind as well as you. I am not inferior to you. Who does not know all these things? I have become a laughingstock to my friends, though I called on God and he answered. A mere laughingstock, though righteous and blameless. But I desire to speak to the Almighty and to argue my case with God. You, however, smear me with lies. You are worthless physicians, all of you. If only you would be altogether silent. For you, that would be wisdom. Hear now my argument. Listen to the pleas of my lips. Will you speak wickedly on God's behalf? Will you speak deceitfully for him? Will you show him partiality? Will you argue the case for God? Would it turn out well if he examined you? Could you deceive him as you might deceive a mortal? He would surely call you to account if you secretly showed partiality. Would not his splendor terrify you? Would not the dread of him fall on you? Though he slay me, yet will I hope in him. I will surely defend my ways to his face. Indeed, this will turn out for my deliverance. For no godless person would dare come before him. Now that I have prepared my case, I know I will be vindicated. Can anyone bring charges against me? If so, I will be silent and die. Only grant me these two things, God, and then I will not hide from you. Withdraw your hand far from me and stop frightening me with your terrors. Then summon me and I will answer, or let me speak and you reply to me. How many wrongs and sins have I committed? I was all too ready to face God. I would ask him to show me my offense and my sin. God, why do you hide your face and consider me your enemy? You fasten my feet in shackles. You keep close watch on all my paths by putting marks on the soles of my feet. The suffering shows too much for me, and I am now bitter, anxious, and scared. I deplore the injustice that God lets evil people thrive while he and many other honest people suffer. I want to face God and protest but cannot physically find God. I told my friends, as surely as God lives, who has denied me justice, the Almighty, who has made my life bitter, as long as I have life within me, the breath of God in my nostrils, my lips will not say anything wicked, and my tongue will not utter lies. I will never admit you are in the right. Till I die, I will not deny my integrity. I will maintain my innocence and never let go of it. My conscience will not reproach me as long as I live. Eventually, the Lord steps in. It is very tough to defend yourself when you are in such misery. What was my greatest pain? It was physical. I was covered in sores from head to toe, tired and exhausted, and in excruciating pain. My pain was social. Because of my physical appearance and the fact that the local community was aware of my recent tragedy, I became a social outcast. People walked on the other side of the street rather than converse with me, since I sat on the ash heap at the village's end. Even the teenagers laughed at me. My pain was also mental. I faced the mental pain of not knowing why these distressing things were happening to me, especially as there seemed to be nothing in my past to point to. My pain was also spiritual. My spiritual anguish was far worse than any other, as I felt cut off from God. This was the true, most excruciating ache. Suffering is much more agonizing if we believe God is far away and unconcerned. However, when I was finally able to talk with God, things didn't go as planned. During my speeches 36 times, I asked God to speak with him. I have now received my wish. The Lord then spoke to me. He said, "Who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its footings set? Or who laid its cornerstone while the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy? Who shut up the sea behind doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thick darkness? When I fixed limits for it and set its doors and bars in place? When I said, 'This far you may come and no farther. Here is where your proud waves halt'? Have you ever given orders to the morning, or shown the dawn its place, that it might take the earth by the edges and shake the wicked out of it? The earth takes shape like clay under a seal. Its features stand out like those of a garment. Will the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? Let him who accuses God answer him." I answered the Lord, "I am unworthy. How can I reply to you?" I put my hand over my mouth. I spoke once, but I have no answer. Twice, but I will say no more. The Lord replied, "Would you discredit my justice? Would you condemn me to justify yourself? Do you have an arm like God's? And can your voice thunder like his? Then adorn yourself with glory and splendor, and clothe yourself in honor and majesty. Unleash the fury of your wrath. Look at all who are proud and bring them low. Look at all who are proud and humble them. Crush the wicked where they stand. Bury them all in the dust together. Shroud their faces in the grave. Then I myself will admit to you that your own right hand can save you. Look at Behemoth, which I made along with you, and which feeds on grass like an ox. What strength it has in its loins, what power in the muscles of its belly. Its tail sways like a cedar. The sinews of its thighs are close-knit. Its bones are tubes of bronze, its limbs like rods of iron. It ranks first among the works of God, yet its maker can approach it with his sword. The hills bring it their produce, and all the wild animals play nearby. Under the lotus plants it lies, hidden among the reeds in the marsh. The lotuses conceal it in their shadow. The poplars by the stream surround it. A raging river does not alarm it. It is secure, though the Jordan should surge against its mouth. Can anyone capture it by the eyes, or trap it and pierce its nose? I dropped to the floor and said, "I know that you can do all things. No purpose of yours can be thwarted." You asked, "Who is this that obscures my plans without knowledge?" Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know. You said, "Listen now, and I will speak. I will question you, and you shall answer me. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes." The Lord instructed my friends to sacrifice a burnt offering and for me to pray for them because he was angry with them for not having spoken the truth about him. Both times when God speaks to me, it occurs in the midst of a storm. I was reminded by God that he is the creator of everything. God runs through his awesome activity of creating and sustaining the world, asking me whether I could match this work. The Lord finishes by asking whether I was in a position to judge, telling me that it is impertinent for me to believe that he should explain himself to me. I was made to feel very small. As God's servant, I was vindicated. My 3 friends, on the other hand, were severely chastised by God. The Lord said they had not spoken accurately about him. The remarkable thing about God's 2 rounds with me is that he still doesn't answer my inquiries. I had prayed for my friends, and the Lord restored my fortunes and gave me twice as much as I had before. All my brothers and sisters and everyone who had known me before came and ate with me in my house. They comforted and consoled me, and each one gave me a piece of silver and a gold ring. The Lord blessed the latter part of my life more than the former part. I had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 donkeys. I also had 7 sons and 3 daughters.